So this is the MSI GE76, and hands down, this is the fastest gaming laptop I've tested in 2021 so far. And it should be. It's a 17-incher, it's a chunk-a-lonk. This is something you'd replace a desktop with, but still want to be a bit portable. Now, you're not going to buy this to bring to school every day. If you do that, you're probably some sort of crazy maniac, considering that this thing is 6.3 pounds, but it's still portable that you can kind of travel with it. Now, it does have a premium vibe to it with the metal lid on top. You do have these top fins which stick upwards. And of course, you have the MSI logo in the dead center. Now, ports is one thing that this thing does well because there's a ton to choose from. Like on the left-hand side alone, you have a USB port, Type-C port, which is not Thunderbolt, audio jack, and then on the right-hand side, you have another USB port, full-size SD card slot, another USB port, and then just like the Legion lineup, you can store most of your connections on the back with the power connector, which is a chunky 280 watt brick. Like this thing is really heavy on its own. Then you have a full-size HDMI, Ethernet jack, Thunderbolt 4, and then a mini display port if you want to connect it to a super high refresh display. Now the keyboard on this has been fantastic. Like you get that full-size numpad, but most importantly, the click. Like this feels almost like a mechanical keyboard, even though technically it isn't. It just has this really satisfying press that other gaming keyboards are lacking. Now this is in partnership with SteelSeries, so there's some sort of magic there. And of course you get all the standard stuff like RGB, but the RGB on this keyboard is not nearly as good as what you'd get on the Razer Blade Pro 17. Like it works, you can do per key, but it's just not bright, even if you have it maxed out. Like it's really hard to see unless you're inside of a dark room. Touchpad, super small. Like, look how tiny this thing is compared to the size of this laptop. I really wish they put a bigger touchpad on this and then centered it for better symmetry. Now the sticker guy, MSI hired a new sticker guy. I want to meet this guy, I want to shake his hand. I want to name my next child after this man because this is some of the best sticker placement I've seen in quite a while. Now, just like the previous model with the 10th gen processor, you still get that crazy RGB light strip on the bottom. I mean, let's face it, the more RGB you have, the faster your computer is gonna run, but it adds a nice glow effect when it's sitting on your desk, which a lot of people seem to think is cool. Now, there are 3 display options. You can get it with a 4K display, which I don't suggest. You can get it with a 1080p, 240 hertz, or this one with a 360 hertz display. That's crazy. Now, it feels great to game on. Like, I'll be honest with you, this 360 hertz display, the response time on this is exceptional. The only downfall to this panel is it's not as color accurate as the 240 or 4K model. Like the color accuracy is, you know, slightly above average, but it's not great. The other thing that's not great is the brightness. This is some of the worst poor brightness I've seen on a panel in a very long time. Like it clocks in under 200 nits. One thing that MSI does on these more expensive models is they include a 1080p webcam on the top. So if you're planning on streaming with this, you can probably just start off with this webcam and have some pretty good results. Now the speakers are pretty good. Are they the best speakers I've ever heard? No. But the 2 2-watt speakers and the 2 1-watt woofers for a total of 4 produce some pretty good sound for a gaming laptop. Now performance is incredible with this thing. Like you pair the i9-11980HQ with 32 gigabytes of RAM, an RTX 3080 with 145 watts that can boost up to 155, the full HD 360 hertz display, and a really fast 1 terabyte NVMe SSD, and what you get is an absolute monster. Now at first I couldn't overclock it. It just wasn't available, but you have to go into the BIOS and you have to enter a certain keystroke, which I think is like Control-Shift-F2, and you can bring up an advanced menu that will allow you to enable overclocking. It doesn't let you go too crazy. The most you can really do is like undervolt it. And I played around with the undervolt settings and it makes a big difference. The sweet spot for this laptop, at least the CPU that's inside of here, was undervolting it to 75. Anything lower than that, and I found the laptop would crash a lot. It made a massive difference, especially when you pair it with the GPU overclock. I overclock that to 100 megahertz as well. For example, in Cinebench R23, it got the highest multi-core score that I've ever got on any other laptop. Single core clock speeds were good too, but it ended up being very close to the Asus Zephyrus M16 11900H that I tested not too long ago. But gaming, wow, that undervolt made a huge difference. It doesn't matter what game I tested on this thing, that undervolt improved frame rates anywhere from 5 to 25 frames per second. And that's really important when you're gaming at 1080p because those single core clock speeds really come in to play. Now, if you're a developer, this thing will scream too. Like, in fact, this computer is so close to its desktop counterpart that it's getting kind of scary considering laptops are significantly smaller. And if you're planning on using this for creator work, the only thing I do suggest is that you hook it up to a more color accurate display because the 360 hertz panel on this guy is obviously not the most color accurate. Heat management is pretty good. For the most part, it usually runs cool when you're gaming, like not too many major concerns there. The only time I can really get it hot is when I'm doing stress tests. Sometimes I'll see that CPU go up to 95 degrees Celsius and then it'll power throttle a little bit in order to maintain a cooler speed. Am I concerned about this laptop overheating when you're using it on a daily basis? Absolutely not. The only time it will get a bit hot is if you're pushing the CPU and the GPU at the exact same time for a long period of use. Now, it does get loud when the fans kick on, but it takes a while for those fans to kick on. Like, you have to run turbo mode, enable Cooler Master for the fans to be at max, and then you'll get like 55 decibels. But if you just leave it on auto or extreme performance and you let it do its thing, you'll hover around 50 decibels when you're gaming, and it's not too bad compared to other gaming laptops, which I've seen reach up to 60. Internally, you have a lot of cooling going on, tons of copper heat pipes with 2 big fans on the left and right to keep this thing cool. RAM is upgradable. You can upgrade this to a total of 64 gigabytes. I love the fact they put the biggest battery possible inside of here, 99 watt hours. And surprisingly, if you put this thing on battery saver mode, you can get over 4 hours of use before needing to charge, which is great compared to other 17-inch gaming laptops. Now, you have 2 spots for an NVMe SSD. One is populated. This is a Gen 4 drive, and the read and write speeds are absolutely insane. You have an extra slot over here if you want to upgrade to more storage down the road. And of course, you have your Wi-Fi 6E card that is also swappable on the right-hand side. One more thing is quality control. I know there's been a lot of posts on my Discord about MSI and their build quality. There's always concern with any gaming laptop you buy. In my use, it hasn't had any issues, but I did notice a few things on the corners of these laptops, like they're not lined up perfectly, and I still don't like the quality of this piece of plastic that's on front of the light. I think it still feels very, very cheap, but in terms of actual performance, this thing delivers. So that wraps up my review of the MSI GE76. If you have any more questions, let me know in the comment section down below. Like the video if you liked it, subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you guys in the next video.